All right, bear with me. I have to manage microphone as well at the same time. So I have the pleasure of doing a Rotary history moment from Rotary year 1997-1998. So a couple decades ago, set the scene for you, kind of what was happening in the world and in Maine. 97, right at the start of that new Rotary year. Not long afterwards, of course, the big item in the news was Princess Diana. Died in the automobile accident in Paris. We also lost Mother Teresa that year, another big one. It was also the year where Timothy McVeigh was convicted of the bombings in Oklahoma City. A lot of scientific advancements. That was the time when Dolly the sheep was cloned. Also, the Mars Pathfinder mission, the first rover mission that we had on a body outside of since the moon. So that was a big item in the news as well. In politics, unfortunately, it was the Monica Lewinsky scandal. That was what dominated the headlines that year. Internationally, there was a lot going on internationally. There were a lot of, started to see a lot of acts of terrorism right around that time. Bombings in the Middle East, Jerusalem, Africa. That was actually a year when Osama bin Laden called for his jihad worldwide. There was a lot going on in former communist countries, so a lot of changing from communism to democracy in those countries, and the road bumps, the bumps that go with that. But there were also a lot of great things happening too. The Good Friday peace settlement, certainly native son George Mitchell worked so hard on to make happen. And as I go through this history moment, there's a lot of ties into Rotary with all these things that were happening nationally, internationally. In Maine, the big story, of course, was the ice storm of '98. That forced us to cancel one of our meetings, the first meeting in January. And in the next meeting, that was the big topic of conversation, all the way through, really, through the month of January. One of our members, Ginger Langenfelder, was with the Red Cross. There was reported afterwards that the first week after the ice storm, the Red Cross had opened 51 shelters, served 48,000 meals, and had raised $437,000 just right after the ice storm. And that included $2,500 from our club, too. So, and then it was the opening of the Casco Bay Bridge as well. So in terms of the club, where were we at? So Fred Thompson was our president. His grandfather was a charter member of the club. We had, continuing the theme from our last Rotary history moment on women in Rotary, we had Loretta Rowe as first vice president. We had Roxanne as second vice president. And we had a district governor, first woman district governor for 7780, Marie Williams. And we also had the retirement of our executive secretary, Ruth Fletcher, that time. So the big thing I noticed in reading through the notes is the really great job the club did with fundraising that year. So we had a number of fundraisers, a number of new ones too. We had the Casco Bay Bridge Road Race. We had the Casco Bay Bridge car auction. The winner got to be the first person to drive the car over the bridge. Ford Taurus, no less. We had the start of a brand new event, Winterfest, which was hugely successful. So Peter Goffin, lots of people in the club now who got that going. Really impressive. They raised $64,000 from this event, first year. Really, really impressive. The social auction, the golf classic, cocktails with the Queen, a chance to see QE2 and have cocktails with Queenie. So all this great stuff, raised a total of $90,000 that year. That was double what we had raised the year before. And then add in the service fund, we distributed $150,000 into the community. So really impressive. In terms of impact on the community service side, the narrow gauge railroad was a big beneficiary. So there were a lot of cleanup efforts around the ice storm. So we were at Camp Sebago, at West School. We were doing a lot with DARE programs, the Red Cross that I mentioned, and we had a Rotary House program. It was a free hotel room for families of patients at Maine Medical Center who needed a place to stay. Rotary provided that for them. International service, we definitely meshed with the times. We had the Friends Forever program was a program that we were very supportive of, and we had 10 kids from Ireland, 5 Protestants, 5 Catholics, come here to Maine. They came to our club in October, and then just 6 months later the peace accord was signed. Romania was also a big focus for us. We had a member, Sarah Luck, who was part of a district grant, who went to Romania to explore projects, and we ended up having an orphanage project that we supported as part of that. And the Romanians came to visit our club later in the year, in the spring. We provided an ESL scholarship for a student from Bosnia, and it was the very start of hearing aids, so Listen Up program, where we collected hearing aids to send to India, and seeing how that's morphed into Hearts for Hearing, and now what is 3H. That was the start of it with Roger Fagan. And then in youth service, we were providing support for a scholar at Oxford. Interesting. So in terms of notable programs, we had Bruce Magoro, who was an advisor to the U.S. consulate in Romania, who spoke to us. We had a GSE team from Finland that came. And interesting to see in the notes, we have this team that's coming from Argentina here soon, kind of struggling a little bit to pull together pieces for that. This GSE team trip from Finland was described as the highlight of the year and a big party atmosphere. So something a little different back then, I suppose. We had Governor Angus King who spoke. We also had our first talk from what is now current mayor, Ethan Strimling. We had Linda Greenlaw spoke to us. She's the captain of a swordfish boat. And she was the inspiration for the female captain in the movie The Perfect Storm. We had a program on the benefits of cell phones. Apparently we had a very racy performance of songs from Damn Yankees. And we had an interesting thing. We had, so the graduating, kind of the new member class that year would take over a meeting, and they would host it. And this was in a very elaborate affair this year. It was Ellen Neuenauer, it was Mike Fortunato, Tom Ranello, John Young, and they actually did a holdup at the narrow gauge railroad, where there was this big elaborate scheme to come in and do like a train robbery holdup there. But it was the highlight of the Windjammer, and much talked about. So, and I'd just like to finish with recognizing Jim Willey. I'm not sure if Jim's here today. So Jim received an award for the 4 Avenues of Service from Rotary International. He was recognized for that, and I just want to extend my own gratitude, even though he's not here, to Jim for doing all these, for organizing the Rotary History Moments, because I learned a ton about Rotary during this process. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.